Hey everyone! In this video, I will walk you through the Autopilot features inside AiHello. So we'll start with the basics, then go deeper into the advanced options like the bidding strategies, the product launches, keyword harvesting, placement boosts, and everything else. By the end, you'll know exactly how to configure Autopilot to scale campaigns with absolute confidence. So first of all, let's start with enabling Autopilot. So when you open any campaign, you'll see the Autopilot toggle. And you can enable this in just one campaign at a time or apply it to multiple campaigns in bulk. At the most basic level, setup takes just 2 steps. Toggle Autopilot on and set your target ACOS, which defaults to 30%. This number should reflect your product type. For example, supplement sellers often set a higher ACOS because their lifetime value is high thanks to repeat subscriptions. But if you're selling a one-time product like a mattress, you want a much lower ACOS, somewhere around 15 to 20%. But once you entered your number and hit save, Autopilot is active, and that's already a good starting point. So the second section is the advanced options and the strategies. So clicking on advanced options opens the full control panel where you can shape how Autopilot behaves. And in these 3 strategies available are increased sales, lower ad costs, launch product, and each of these work differently. So then choosing the right one really depends on your campaign goals. So as you could see, the next section is the increase sales strategy. So the default setting is increase sales, which focuses on growth. If a keyword or target is performing above your ACOS goal, Autopilot automatically lowers the bid until it comes back in the line. So if another keyword is far below your ACOS goal, Autopilot raises the bid to capture a lot more sales. So for example, let's set your target ACOS to 25%. If one keyword is running at 40%, bids will drop until it stabilizes closer to 25. Meanwhile, if another keyword is running at 10%, Autopilot raises the bid to scale sales while trying to stay under your goal as well. So this strategy keeps bids moving up and down in real time, so performance continuously gravitates towards your target ACOS. The fourth section is lower ad cost strategy. So this is a much more conservative approach. So here Autopilot will still reduce bids when ACOS goes above your target, but it won't raise bids if performance is under your target. So this means you'll save money, but you'll also lose opportunities to scale. This option is mainly used when your focus is strictly on cost control and not only just like pushing for more sales. So then the next section is the launch product strategy. So this is made for testing new products during the first 90 days. So it requires 3 settings. So first of all, a minimum weekly spend per keyword. So for example, if you have 20 keywords and set $5 as a weekly spend, Autopilot will push bids until each keyword spends at least $5 a week. So that's an example totaling $100 weekly. Second, a maximum bid per keyword. So this acts as your guardrail. So if you set $3, Autopilot will never raise bids above that amount, even if your keyword looks promising. And then third is a total spend cap per keyword. So for instance, if you cap it at $50, then with 20 keywords, your total possible launch spend is $1,000. Or if you cap it at $20, the maximum spend for the entire launch would be $400. Autopilot tests keywords with these limits, raising and lowering bids until each keyword has had enough budget to prove itself. So once the cap is reached or the 90 days end, you'll know which keywords are worth it and to keep scaling. The sixth section is Amazon bidding and ACOS calculations. So Autopilot also integrates with Amazon's native bidding mode, dynamic up and down, dynamic down only, and fixed bids. So the system can automatically switch between them based on the performance. So you don't need to micromanage those settings. There's also a technical setting called ACOS average days, which defaults to 7. This acts as a fallback. If a keyword hasn't generated any clicks or sales, Autopilot will use the last 7 days of the account data to estimate ACOS until real performance data becomes available. The seventh section is bidding customization. So let's talk about customizing bid behavior in detail. You'll see controls for bid aggression up. This controls how aggressively Autopilot raises bids. By default, it's set to 150%, which means bids can move up quickly. And if you want to reduce risk, you can down to 50% or lower. So increase can happen more gradually. Bid aggression down. So this is the opposite of how aggressively Autopilot lowers bids when ACOS is high. You could set it to 100%, which makes bids drop fast, or you could tone it down for slower decreases. And then velocity bid change up. This is about step size. So let's say your bid is $1. If velocity is high, Autopilot might push it straight to $1.75. If velocity is low, it might only move it to $1.25 as an example. Maximum bid allowed. So finally, this is your safety guardrail. So Autopilot usually calculates a safe maximum automatically, but you could override it. For example, you might say, never let bids go over $5, and this lets everything keep it under control. The key here is balance. So you want to give Autopilot enough room to work, but you don't want the bids to be skyrocketing unchecked. The eighth section is keyword revival and jolting. So Autopilot also takes care of keyword testing. So first, keyword revival lets you set how many keywords are tested each day. The default range is 1 to 5. Most sellers set it to 5. So 5 new keywords are always being tested. Next, jolt weak keywords. So this is a backup system. If there are no keywords left, then Autopilot can revive an old weak keyword, one that had been tested previously and failed. But by default, it's set to only one, meaning only one weak keyword gets revived at a time. The ninth section is minimum spending threshold. So this setting ensures that Autopilot doesn't cut bids too early. For example, if you set it to $3 per keyword, Autopilot won't decrease a bid until that keyword has spent at least $3. And then the next section is Amazon will give you 3 ad placements. So the top of search, rest of search, and product detail pages. And Autopilot, you can manually set how much extra you want to bid on each placement, anywhere from 20% up to 100%. Or you can choose automatically optimized. If you do that, Autopilot will calculate those placement boosts daily and update them automatically. That way you're always adapting to where your ads are performing the best without having to manually adjust anything. And then the next section is keyword harvesting. So with keyword harvesting switched on, Autopilot looks across every campaign, finds strong search terms, and automatically adds them into the right campaigns. So it doesn't just look at auto campaigns, it checks everything. If you don't want a campaign to contribute search terms, you could select do not harvest them this campaign. Do not harvest from this campaign. This particularly is important for branded campaigns. So for example, if you're running a campaign with only branded keywords, you don't want those keywords flowing into other campaigns. So checking this box absolutely prevents that. The next section is negating poor search terms. So on the flip side, Autopilot also negates bad performs. So you could choose the sensitivity. So there's conservative, which means search terms are rarely negated, and there's average, which is balanced. On average, we've seen a threshold around 1.7x spend as the cutoff for negating, and then aggressive means search terms are negated quickly if they're wasting spend. And if Autopilot notices a search term is just bleeding money and producing no sales, it will automatically add it as a negative keyword. And then the last section is day parting. So with Autopilot, you could set day parting to automatic. And when you do this, Autopilot creates rules inside Amazon using their new own bid boost system. So this system looks at both the day of the week and the time of the day. So it then boosts or suppresses bids accordingly. So if your campaigns perform well on weekdays in the evening, and then Autopilot boosts then. But then if they underperform on Sunday mornings, Autopilot suppresses as an example. This optimization runs dynamically, so updating as patterns change and stuff. And yeah, that's the full walkthrough of AiHello Autopilot. We started with the simple setup, just switching it on and setting up your ACOS, and then exploring the advanced strategies like increase sales, lower ad costs, and launch products. We also looked at bidding controls, keyword testing, safeguards, placement optimization, keyword harvesting, negation, and also, like I just mentioned, day parting automation. And once this is all configured, you can now focus on less on micromanaging bids, and you can now focus on growing your business. But yeah, thank you.